Welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream for ustream.tv and also recorded for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. And I'm working in Johanna Basford's Johanna's Christmas Festive Colour Book. And I've used some tracing paper, and I buy children's because it's always cheaper than buying adults tracing paper, and it's quite good quality. And this is the gramophone. I think it's called the gramophone. And it had kind of that many swirls in it, and I don't like spaces, so I've traced a couple of swirls and then kind of manipulated them around, and then traced some baubles. And the thing about tracing is, the first time I did it, I didn't trace things because I wanted to draw them myself. But because Johanna obviously is probably right-handed and has a way of working these swirls, when I do them, they're not very good. And I wanted some continuity. I wanted them to look like they match, not that somebody's just thrown some wiggles in there. So that's why I trace them, and also that the curls are the same, because my swirls would go in a different direction, so it looks like it's always been that way. And then luckily my isograph 0.25 rotary isograph pen, which has got refillable Indian ink in it, which is permanent, actually matches almost the same. It's a little bit thinner on this one. On some of the other ones that I've drawn, it's a bit thicker, but on this one it's a little tiny bit thinner. And I could have swapped pens, but you know, I've just kind of have gone with it. Once it's coloured in, you shouldn't really notice too much. Now I do trace with a Derwent sketching pencil, a medium wash, because I find it's a lot easier to rub out. And I've painted my nails today, and this was my daughter's Revlon Mon Cherie 335 from Revlon. It's very similar to the Fire Engine Red that I had on before, but I thought I'd just brighten the fingers up a little bit. Got to be a little bit careful though when you scratch backwards, because the red nail varnish will go on your pages. I think that's a little bit of pencil. So I say the beauty of it is, as long as you have a clean eraser, you can normally wipe off quite a few marks. And also I've got the swirls for other things as well. So I should move those out of the way because they crinkle a lot. And it feels to me very much like greaseproof paper, but we don't have greaseproof paper anymore. We have baking parchment, and it doesn't have the same feel. But you could use baking parchment if you can see through it. Anything you can see through, it'll be fine. And I've got my Inktense pencils in the sleeves for the Derwent pencil and pen carry bag. So I won't be using the Graphy Tint today. I will be using the Inktense. So they're all sitting there, and I can read what they are, so I can pick them out easily. And they're all in order because it's easier. There's yellows, oranges, reds, pinks, purples, and then it goes purples, blues, greens, and then there's a few olive greens to browns, beiges, blacks, greys, and a white. So they're in a very handy colour scheme, and they're also labelled in my little book. And I've been using this little book. I use it for very fine work and for Bible journaling, where you've got to be very pale and dry, and you've got more control over your pencil. But I've started using them as a pencil, as another way of working with them. But I'm using my little book, and although these are actually squares of proper colour, I'm using them on the colour scale here, the colour grade scale there. so I can have a look and decide exactly what I want and what will go with what. So I was looking at the gramophone, thinking it's made of wood. So if it's made of wood, I have a willow and I have an oak. So I decided that the oak would be quite nice, but I've got like almost 10 shades there. Now you haven't got as many as here, so what I'm going to do is look for, I've also got one called bark as well, but oak's quite nice. I've got the oak one here, and my trusty excuse me if the dog's disappeared. Alfie, come here please. I know what you're going to do and you're not. Come here, Alfie. No. Can you come and be a good boy? Come on, you've had your treat, so you've got to be a good boy now. Come on, I'd like you to sit under here and be a good puppy. Thank you, under there. Come on, be a good boy. There's a good boy. He's got wandery pants on today. Thank you. Right. Sorry about that. Right, so I've got the oak one. And I know the oak has got a pale shade and a dark shade. So I need to decide where the light's coming from, so I can have a pale side and a dark side. It normally comes from the left down because I find that easier. People who are right-handed probably go right to left. So I've got my trusty little colour. I'm using it as a colour swatch today. And I've been looking at the teals and the aquamarines for the swirls. So I'll probably do the swirls first. So I quite like aquamarine, and then there's a greeny green aquamarine. So I quite like those colours for the swirls. But I've got this one out, so we'll have a look at this. I'll zoom in. And we'll get started. Now, although this is a live show, I do, it's a bit early in the morning for me. I do record for YouTube, mainly for all my YouTubers. So thank you, all of you, for subscribing and for liking. And I hope to continue to make videos of things that everybody likes. This Christmas, Johanna's Christmas book is quite a nice book, but I want to get it finished for Christmas, because obviously after Christmas I won't want to. I want to be working in it really. So I do want to finish these. But the beauty of working this way is it's easy on the hands and it's fairly quick, because you're colouring with the pencil and then you're activating it with a paintbrush, and it makes it fairly quick and fairly easy. So hopefully we should get this done in a couple of hours, which is fairly good for a colour page. So I shall zoom in and just rearrange all my bits and pieces so I can manoeuvre my page about, because I do like my page to be fairly comfortable. So if I put that here, I haven't got much of a point on here, but it doesn't matter. I'm just very carefully. So underneath will be darkest, and I can't really scribble too much. So the beauty of this is you can just literally just draw across very roughly without having to push on and squeeze the pencil. And that makes it a bit easier for you, and there's no stress on your hands. You can do that for a bit longer. So I'm just barely touching the top of these pencils. So I can give one light coat, and little circles make sure that you have you don't have any pencil lines. Just gently stroking into there, and then we can go to here. Now I hate sharpening my pencils because although I've got a Derwent pencil sharpener, I'm quite impressed with it. I actually want to go back to the old-fashioned way, so I've actually sent off for a pencil sharpener guard, so you can sharpen them with a blade, and you don't, when you're twisting, you're moving this colour, this blend of colour here, and you're taking it away from its wood, and that damages the pencil. So in the next few days that should arrive. I would think it would have wooden feet. So that's a completely flat colour. So if I activated that now, everything would be the same. So if I very gently, and again not pressing hard, just really carefully stroking another layer, the same pressure, just under the lip of that. That's going to give me a natural shadow. And this side here is going to be slightly darker. Because it's at the front. And then this is going to be slightly darker. And then if we're really careful, just give that another little bit there, then we should have some nice highlighting going on. And that's roughly all there is to it, except for I'll show you another trick for putting a highlight on there later on when we've finished. So I have my trusty little pot here, and this is a dry baby wipe. So I can actually pour a tablespoon of water on there, and then I just dip it into my big water pot. So I have about a tablespoon of water on there on a damp baby wipe, and the idea is that we dunk here, twist to a point, and you end up with a damp brush. Must have caught that one. End up with a damp brush, and that damp brush is going to tease the colour out. So I normally work with 3, but I've been working with the Daily Rowner riggers, and I have a 1, 2, and then I have a 10, 0, because that's for the fine work, which is a liner, and that's a 10, 0. So these are the 3 brushes that I've got, so I can just so we'll start with the lightest, just very carefully. I just want to be too damp. Very carefully draw that colour down. And I've got a little flat area there, and here we want the colour to go darker where the shadow would be. we've got that. By activating that, we've got that kind of effect. And then this wants to just be activated. And this is how quick it is. It's all done. You get the colour on with the pencil, and then you manipulate it round to where you want it. Now I actually want the centre of that a little bit darker, so I've got a damp brush, and again it's fairly dry, but what I want to do is just, now I'm showing you on camera, you're just teasing a little bit, just stroking the end of that colour to get a very, very strong colour at the end of the paper. Never dip that into your water pot. Two reasons. One is it makes such a drastic mark on your paper that you will never get off because it's so strong. But the other reason is you break your pencils. You saturate that wood and it damages the pencil. But by stroking the end of here, you get the colour. But don't do it over your work, because if you do this, you get the splatter effect. But I'm just showing you that's what you need to do. And what that will do is give you a very, very concentrated colour on the end of your paintbrush. So you can put some shadows in, and you can activate the feet, and they want to be quite dark, so again, damp brush, just touch the end of your pencil, and then you get a very concentrated pure colour. And the Inktense pencils, once they are dried, they're set. So you can just put the tiniest shadow there, and then just a little bit more there. So I have my damp brush to activate the colour. Hi Mika, welcome to Buddy's Designs. Very well, thank you. Hope you're well too. Hope you've got rid of your nasty headache that you had for days. Just teasing that colour out of there. So this is a live stream, but it is very early for everybody today. Oh, that's good. That's good. Glad to hear that. So again, I'm just going to tease a little bit of colour into there. And you don't have to bother with shadow if you don't want to. You can just leave it as it is, but I kind of like that. So this would be wood, but obviously it wants to be quite pale. So what you can do is with a damp brush, if you're quick, because we've got all this kind of activated colour, you can steal a bit and manipulate it on the top. And that just gives you a tiniest amount of colour. just a hint because it's very pale, because it's on the top. So we can put the bow on now, or we can put it on later. So I think I'll put this one away, and I'm going to use this is ink black, and I'm just going to touch very carefully underneath and the middle. Put the pen back. And that's allowed me to kind of manipulate that colour into there. And the centre, and that will give me, again, stealing a little bit of that colour if it's not set. I've actually got the highlight on the opposite side than I wanted it, so I need to just tease a bit more colour of there. So we'll leave the bow for the minute, I think, and we'll do the actual gramophone. Now, I had a bit of a think about this, and I think I liked the cadmium yellow and the mustard, I think. Again, I can have a look at my little colour swatches here and think I quite like this colour, maybe. Probably the mustard colour would be good, but this one has quite a nice warm feel, so that could be for the outside and that one for the inside of the actual trumpet. So that would be Sicilian yellow and mustard. So just stroke colouring gently. And I'm not sure what to do with this, but we'll just kind of give it a little bit of something. And this is a slightly bigger brush. I think I have a number 3 somewhere, but this should be fine. Just manipulate that colour. And where you want it to be palest, start there and then work where you want it to be palest. So you can work that down to quite a nice shadow. So activate a little bit of that. Draw that colour out. And then tease that colour where you want it. So we wanted a little bit of colour on top, and then activate this colour here. We're going to do with a little bit bigger brush. Just got a very tiny highlight on there. And I didn't have to use a different colour pencil. I didn't have to do anything. And then if I just go around there, just a little bit again, I can put a little bit more colour on if I want. I can manipulate that colour. Sometimes you've got to have sometimes a little bit bigger brush, but you only want that to be kind of damp, and you get quite a nice natural highlight. So that's with one paintbrush. I don't have to go over that too many times. It's one paintbrush and it's done. And I think this was Sicilian yellow. I think I'm going to go for mustard inside, and mustard is with there. And one thing you can do is always have a piece of paper to test. So if I'm not quite sure, I can just scribble a little bit on there and think, actually that's going to look quite nice inside there. So again, just very carefully, I'm hardly holding the pencil at all, pushing down with this bit of my hand, my thumb, just scribbling that in there, so it's very little pressure on your hands, and that's going to give you some nice flat colour. So we've done that one first. So that's one layer of just light layer of stroking a fairly flat area of colour. And little tiny circles means you don't get any harsh lines, because you don't really want any harsh lines at this point. So that's one flat layer. So we can think the light's going to come in, so about here we can do another light layer on top. It's going to make it darker, but you're just stroking the same pressure as the first layer. It's going to give you a very gentle second layer. I think that might do. And again, I'm going to use probably a slightly bigger brush, I think, on this. So let me see if I can find the number 3. I had them all out yesterday. These are what I was using, these. And I haven't put them back. So that's a number 3 rigger, and I quite like that one. I used that one a lot the other day because it's long enough to keep some dampness, but you need to manipulate quite a lot of colour. So I would normally have my paintbrush in this direction and activate that colour. Then you're stroking it to become a really nice highlight. So you put in the colour on with the pencil, but most of the work is being done by the damp paintbrush, and that's why sometimes you don't have to go over the lines with the pencil. As long as you don't go over the lines, you can be short of the lines, because you can manipulate that colour with your paintbrush, and there's hardly any pressure on your hands because this is a little soft brush. And again, you want to tease that shadow as you activate the colour very quickly, so you don't need 6 or 7 different pencils. You've got one pencil with all those shades in it. Hi Suzanne, welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm playing in the Johanna Basford's Christmas. I've done some extra drawings on this page, or tracings, to make it to fill the gaps up, because I don't tend to do backgrounds because I like the ivory paper. So that was one pencil with 2, because one pencil will give you at least 10 shades, and if you want a little bit of a dark shadow in there, just tease that, or put that over the top, because if you splash, it doesn't matter. Now you shouldn't do, because you should only have a damp brush, but you're just teasing that colour onto there. It's best to do it away from your work, and then you can just, if you want to, manipulate that colour. Now I think that's a bit strong actually, but can manipulate that out to there, and then just touch. And seeing as we've done that one, better do the bottom, so again just a tiniest amount. It's very strong, are these intense. So are the Derwent watercolour pencils. It's pure watercolour and it's pure colour. So that's not taken us very long, and with 3 pencils we've got quite a few shades on there. Now there's an edge to do here, so I suggest we just stroke into there, and that's going to give us the tiniest amount of colour, which is going to be perfect for what we want. So all we want to do is just knock off that start white very carefully. We just want to give it a tiniest amount of colour, and you can sometimes steal that colour. And you can only just tell there is a tiny amount of colour on there. So I was going to have a look at the aquamarine and the deep aquamarine. So we'll have a look at these 2 colours to determine which colour we're going to do the swirls. So that's one, and that's the dark aquamarine. One's bluer and one's greener than the other one. And again, all I want to do is just manipulate that colour to determine what shade we want. I think I like the green aquamarine. I think I like that colour. So again, you can think about shadow and you can think about light and dark. So the light's coming from this way, so if I draw a line on every inside curl, so I put the paintbrush away because I don't need that particularly yet. So that could be quite dark, and again the lightest touch. So when it comes out of here, I just want nothing on the other side at all, just a little scratching of colour all the way around. Now it doesn't matter at the moment, we know what colour it is, we know what it's going to look like. So you could do with quite a point on this pencil, but all we're doing is just manipulating a little bit of colour. Now this is where it takes the time, but that, if whatever you do here, you're going to make more time the other side. So take this curl up here, so you just want the tiniest amount of colour, and then that goes on that side, then it goes underneath here. And all the way around, and it wants to go at the bottom, so you've got to think, where's the light coming from? And possibly a little bit there. But again, we're just stroking the colour in, we're not digging in deep colour, because this is what I'm doing, just stroking colour in. That's hard on your hands. Doing that, we're just literally scratching a little bit of colour, and these are very soft. These pencils are like using ordinary pencils. They're quite soft, so the lightest touch, and you're actually putting pure colour onto here. And it's a little bit easier if you can manoeuvre. Let's move those for a minute. We need to turn the book so you have a natural curve. This is easier to stay in the lines, but it's also better for your wrist because you're not putting any pressure. All you've got to realise is that the inside of here, and then when it gets to here it goes to the bottom. You've got to remember which is your top and which is your bottom. So the light's coming from this direction. Then we can take that swirl and this is where all this colour is going to be activated. So we've done this swirl, so now this is where the magic is. So I think we'll use a number 3 because you want to manipulate. You want to look at the size of the brush because you want to manipulate this colour up here. Excuse the little pop underneath. So again, the slightest touch, and then you'll see just how strong this colour is. So if we take that here and manipulate that across. So we want the tiniest amount at this side, and then we want the deepest colour at that side. And that's giving us a natural highlight, so we don't have to put another colour. Come here, please. Thank you. Having a wander. He's having a wander today. I don't know why. Come on. Come on. The other two have gone straight to sleep, but he's in a wandering mood. Come on, sit down. There's a good boy. He's a bit in a wandering mood, is Alfie today. No. Alfie. Come on. Come on. Comfy boy, please. Thank you. Settle down. Sorry about that. He's just in a wandering mood. So we want to be here. So what we're doing, a damp brush, manipulate that colour a little bit, tease it across, and then when you go back, you really want to rub that to that far side, and that's going to give you a natural highlight. And then you can tease that colour across. And then just very carefully, just touching a damp brush across it, and that's going to activate that colour, which makes a really nice highlight. So there's one pencil to manipulate this colour. So again, you just want to tease that colour out, and then you can spread it right to that far side, because I hadn't taken that pencil there, but then it becomes a lovely watercolour that you can just tease round, and it's a lot easier to turn your page if you can. And then this damp brush is still damp, so it's activating this particular thing. Now I did lose that nice highlight I had, but when you turn it round, it's actually underneath, so it would be darker anyway. And so that's just one. Oh, Suzanne says hi, Alfie. Yeah, he's in a wandering mood. I don't know what's wrong with him today. He's just in a wandering mood. So again, a damp brush. We're going to tease that colour out. And then it's swapped because of the shadow. But we need a little bit of colour up there. And that's giving you a really nice effect with very little effort, just a damp brush. Again, you're just going to activate that, drag a little bit of colour back, and then take it right to the edge of pure strong colour for a shadow at that side and a highlight at this side. And you're just going to tease that colour, and that just shows how easy a shadow effect is with no effort at all. All you've done is chosen where to put the small pencil mark. And if you want to go back in there, you can do, or if you just want to leave it, you can do. But that's a very quick mark. And then when we finish this, we'll put, so we've got a rough idea. Of where this goes. Tease that colour, and then when you get to the bottom, that's your shadow. And then very carefully turn that round. Hi Carrie Ann, welcome to Bunny's Designs. So then we're going to follow that up there. So again, that's just activating that, pulling the colour up, and then here just want to stroke the colour forward so you've got a bit of a highlight, and then take that dark right to that edge to make a beautiful shadow effect. And then I take that down there. And it doesn't take long for the brush to dry out because it's just a damp brush. You don't want a wet brush. It's dried on that. It's dried on that baby wipe. It's got all the water in it. Just the tiniest amount. And just keep teasing that colour forward. And it's always easier to turn. The arc of your wrist is going to be always the easier. And then just a little bit of colour here. And tease that colour down. It's the paintbrush that's going to manipulate all that colour. And again, just manipulate that colour down here. So we want the palest on the top, and then we want to draw that colour back down. So I'll turn that around and I'll just show you what that's done with very little effort. So you can see there's going to be some highlights and shadow. So it's very quick. So I'll zoom in again carefully. And if you want to, I'll start at the bottom here. I've got the end of the pencil. This is the same pencil, so we've got all those highlights and lowlights in the same pencil. And we can just stroke in its pure colour by touching the end of the paintbrush, and we could possibly and then if you want to just put the tiniest amount of stronger shadow here, you can do, or you can leave it as it is. And it's damp, but it's not wet. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go up this curl. So again, this would be at this side. I'm actually going to sharpen it so I've got a point, I think. Just makes it, I hate to do this, but so we've got this shadow that way. The shadow would be the back there. We just want a very, very fine line. All the way down here. No, Alfie is definitely not behaving himself. I'm going to turn this way carefully. Again, just following that round. And then the swirl, this is a swirl that I've added this bit to, so I've added all this. So that would be dark. That would be dark. And just and I'm hoping that when I get the colour in, I've kind of sorted out all those bits and pieces. Oh, thank you, Suzanne. I hope so. We hope so. So again, we want a little bit of colour in there. And then down here. And let's change sides again. Can you come and settle down, please? Settle down, please, now. Alfie, on down there, please. Come on. Settle down, there's a good boy. Settle down. No, he's just going to be Mr. Awkward Pants today. So, back to this bit here. He'll get the message in a minute. To settle down. So I'm just very carefully just thinking that the shadow is going to be on that far side. I've missed a curl here. Are you going to be a good boy? So, again, I've got my number 3 Daily Rowney rigger. I'll start here and activate with just a damp brush. So you want to keep your highlights first because you can always go back and do darker. Just want that little soft. Teasing a tiny bit of colour backwards and then going forward to make that very strong shadow at the bottom side of the swirl. I don't know what I'm going to do with this dog because he's not settling, bless him. Just put him in the kitchen. Yeah, he's just wrapping the... He's just being a bad boy today. So activate that down there. And then take this bit of colour here, tease it up and then manipulate that into a dark shadow. So you don't really want to be too wet if you could help it, because your page will warp, and that's the last thing we want. So you just manipulate that with your fingers. And if you think you've lost your low light, you can put it in later. The trick is not to activate too much. You want your highlight. It doesn't matter about the dark, but you don't want to activate and lose your highlight, because you can always go darker but you can never go lighter, not with the Inktense. and it's always difficult on a colour page. If you're on watercolour paper, you can do it, but not on in a book. It's not normally easy to do it in a book. And just again gently stroking that colour, and it just takes a damp brush, and of course by nature these ink tints are very vibrant, but we haven't used a lot of colour. But once these dry, they're set. The Derwent watercolours, you can add water to them and manipulate the colour again, but these ink tints you can't. Yeah, he's going to be naughty. I'll go put him in the kitchen out of the way. He's not going to be a good boy today. No, grumbly boy. Grumbly boy. So I wanted to get this Christmas book done because I don't fancy doing it after Christmas. Shush! I'm going to have to go put him in the kitchen. And you can tell if your brush is too wet. Shush! And you just want a little bit of colour on the top. And then draw this colour further down. Yep. Yep, we have a moaning myrtle. Why are you giving me puppy eyes? Come here, because you've gone behind me now. Come here. You're just wrapping yourself round. What's wrong? No, he's not going to have any peace. Are we? No peace. I just don't want to catch him with the chair. You're a big good boy. I gave you the other treat. Don't scratch, darling. Alfie. He's not going to give in. So, have a look and see how we're doing for time. Yes, I know. We know, Mr. Demanding Pants. Yeah, we know. If I don't go sort him out. Right, so I've nearly got to the end of that swirl, so I shall just, yes, I know, Alfie. I'll just,